First of all, I want to thank you for taking out time this Wednesday morning. It's Wednesday, right? I think it's Wednesday, right? I just forgotten it. So, Mr. Bindra is recently he has been the event ambassador for Airtel Delhi Half Marathon, which is going to be held on the 29th of November this month. And Mr. Bindra needs no introduction. He continues to be the only Olympian gold medalist, individual category, and he's a recipient of all the top awards you can name. So thanks, Mr. Bindra, for taking time on this out of your busy schedule. My first question to you is that after retiring from competitive sport and you thought about giving back, and you're doing it in a very big way. Tell me a little bit more about the foundation and the story behind it. What was the idea?
Well, of course, post my retirement from active sport, I still wanted to remain connected to sport. I don't participate in any kind of sport, even for leisure anymore. I don't even watch too much of it anymore. But sport has obviously been my life, and it has given me so much. So, of course, I do want to give back to it, and I think it is my responsibility, and it brings me immense amount of joy to be able to contribute in a little way that I can. My primary outreach to Indian sport in particular is through the Abhinav Bindra Foundation, which we set up about close to 10 years ago. But of course, we've been extremely active after my retirement because I could primarily give a lot more time and effort to the organization. We have a few pillars, what the foundation is working on, and I list them for you. One, of course, is the element of bringing best global practice in the area of sports science and the area of technology in sport. And there we've set up these Abhinav Bindra targeting performance centers, which bring in global best practice in performance enhancement, in injury prevention, and of course, injury management. We have a lot of technology that we employ, which is cutting edge in nature. I've always been a big propagator of working on the 1% of sport. I utilize science and technology to a great degree in my own career. And I do feel that this is, for many years, been a missing link in the whole ecosystem in Indian sport. So with these centers, which are cutting edge in nature, we roll out a scholarship program for grassroots level athletes, which is called the STEAM Scholarship Program. STEAM standing for Science, Technology, Engineering, Analytics, and Medicine. And we incorporate all those elements into athlete training. This scholarship program is really meant for grassroots level athletes, ranging from the age of 11 to about 17. I am a big believer in actually supporting the grassroots level athletes. They are the ones who really require a lot of support coming through. Indian sport has grown over the last years, and we now see a lot of support coming to our elite athletes, and a lot of good work is being done by various organizations, the government, the sports authorities, etc., etc. So this is an area, the grassroots level athletes is where my primary focus is. Of course, we do work with the elite athletes as well. So that is one area that the foundation is working on, which is basically giving you the intervention in sports science. The second pillar of the foundation is education. And to contribute to the ecosystem in Indian sport, we also really need to make a push in educating the whole ecosystem which surrounds the athlete, whether it be coaches, whether it be support staff with physios, etc. So we've set up the Abhinav Bindra Sports Medicine and Research Institute, which is just going to be inaugurated in a couple of days in Bhubaneswar. We will be starting off with bachelor's programs, bachelor's and master's programs in physiotherapy. Again, it's about bringing global best practice into the equation, getting an international faculty in play, which is really the best in class and the best people and best minds in this field to really help empower our own people. If we have to grow as a sport, as a sporting country, we have to, of course, empower our athletes. But more than that, we also need to empower the whole ecosystem which surrounds the athlete, because the athlete has to be created. The athlete will not be just talent alone is not enough to bring global success. The second intervention in education is a program that I run with the ELMS Foundation. The ELMS Foundation was founded by Jalaj and Vita Dani. And we rolled out a program earlier this year, specifically targeting sports administrators. And it was a good success, and we're going to keep going on in it. For many years, there has often been discussion on what ails Indian sport, and administration is something which has always been talked about and not talked about in the highest of manners. So, but we have to do something about it, and we have to empower our administrators. We have to empower the people who run Indian sport in leadership capacities. So we set up a program in partnership with the University of Loughborough in the UK, which is rated the best sports university in the world. And we put together a course. The first batch went really well. We had people from the significant number of people from the Sports Authority of India taking part, a lot of people from the state governments taking part, and it was a big success, and we will continue to work on this aspect. The third and the last pillar of the foundation is, of course, using sport for social good. And that is a program where this particular program is something I'm particularly proud of and gives me great joy in being involved in it. It is run in partnership with a former rival of mine, a three-time Olympic champion from Italy, Niccolò Campriani, one of the best sport shooting athletes ever in his sports history. And we are, of course, good friends now after we stopped our careers in Rio in 2016. And, we've both been very inspired by the refugee cause. The Rio Olympics saw the first ever international refugee team take part at the Games as part of the international refugee team. These are people who've gone through immense hardship in life and use sport as a way to empower and make their life, bring purpose to their lives. So Niccolò is based out of Lausanne in Switzerland, where he works for the International Olympic Committee. And we set out a selection for about 25 refugees based there. And we picked 3 refugees who were not athletes, and we involved them in the sport of shooting, which is our sport. And we started training them 2 years ago, and we hope that at least a couple of them will make it to Tokyo next year. This will be a great achievement for them to actually make it to the Olympic Games. But the program has already succeeded because using the power of sport, we've helped define these people's lives. We've brought meaning to these people's life, and sport has the power to do that. So that is a program which we've run, and there's been a documentary which has documented their journey so far, which was produced by the Olympic Channel. The documentary is called Taking Refuge, and whoever is interested to have a look at it can stream it on the Olympic Channel. So that's what I've been doing that's what I've been doing through the foundation. I, of course, and the other element of my involvement in sport is me being a member of the IOC's Athletes Commission, and I've spent quite a lot of time working on athlete mental health. And that is a part of that. Also, a program I'm also running with the foundation in the education aspect. I forgot to mention that. We're running courses to create psychologically safe environments for athletes in the ecosystem. Mental health is a big issue. It's been a very stigmatized issue over the years, of course, not just in sport, but in society in general. And athletes are not immune to mental health issues. So we are running awareness workshops and, of course, specific workshops for organizations to create environments which are psychologically safe and give the athletes the best possible environment and chances to succeed.
Right. And if you see, you touched upon the mental wellness. I just want to bring this point up that athlete mental wellness has become a prominent part of your foundation, the work that you do. Tell me, how does that link to the mandate of high performance that the foundation looks to implement? I mean, you did touch upon, but I want a little bit of detail on this.
That's an excellent question. I compliment you for that. For a long time, there's been a misconception. The only work on athletes on the mental side is being done on performance. And what we've really not done well in the ecosystem is to recognize that athletes are human beings first. An athlete is always there's always been a great misconception in the world that athletes are mentally very strong, and they are almost immune to any sort of mental illness or mental issue that they may face. But in fact, athletes are at great risk of mental health issues, primarily because there's so much pressure to perform. There's continuous failure. There's success. Success can sometimes also be a crisis. There's continuous training, physiological load, excessive physiological load can also play up on the mind. There's always pressure of expectation, your own internal expectations and expectations from outside. There's an impending end to a career. There's career transition. So there are several touch points in an athlete's career which can be red flags and which can really have a significant effect on mental health. But having said that, specifically on your question, we often, even I, for example, was guilty in believing in the equation during my career that a gold medal will equal happiness. But in fact, that is just the wrong equation to believe in, because there is absolutely no relation between an outcome and your internal happiness. In fact, you have to reverse that equation and make having a goal for happiness, which will actually equal to a gold medal. So basically, the attempt is to make human well-being, athlete well-being, at the center and heart of high performance. When you look at an athlete, not just like a competitor, but look at the athlete like a human being, and look at his human side of the athlete, and take care of the human side of the athlete will be in a much greater position to bring performance out, to bring high performance out. So it is about looking after the well-being of that human being, and that is what we are attempting to do.
Right. Brilliant. I think this is so well put, because we are stuck with the former, looking at only the performance side and not the human side of it. My next question is that, could you elaborate on the Make a Mark initiative that you have, that's being done with three-time Olympian champion, as you said earlier, also Nicole. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. So this is, of course, the refugee program, which I just talked about. And, the refugee cause is something which is dear to my heart. And, I was so inspired by these refugee athletes who took part at the Rio Games. And I've already spoken about what the program entails, but what I will try to elaborate a little bit now is, I've met these three athletes who had, or not even athletes, I met these three people in Lausanne about 2 years ago. And, these people had gone through immense hardship in lives. One person is from Afghanistan, had to face great personal tragedy, and somehow got his way into Switzerland and so on and so forth. These were people who were going through a real emotional crisis. They were sad, they were unhappy, they were quiet, reticent, and so on and so forth when I first met them. And then they started getting involved in sport. And they suddenly had a goal in mind. They woke up every morning with a little bit of more energy. They started waking up with a spark in their eyes, because they wanted to do something, and they saw that through sport they could do something for themselves. And now, after 2 years, when I meet them, these are really incredible human beings who have that energy, who are driven, who are goal oriented, who have a smile on their face. And it is so wonderful to see that we are using the power of sport to change people's lives. And that is the true victory of sport. Of course, we all like to win gold medals, and we all like to see our teams winning in various sports. But the greatest impact sport can make is when it touches society, when sport can be a catalyst to drive the youth, because sport has so many inherent qualities that you can inculcate into young people. It teaches you how to win. It teaches you, more importantly, it teaches you how to lose. It teaches you integrity. It teaches you the need to follow the rules. It teaches you the necessity to work hard. It teaches you honesty. It drives you. It helps you make goals. And these are all aspects which have a tremendous positive impact on society. Of course, through Make a Mark, we chose the refugee cause to do it. But the principles that we are using even in Make a Mark are the principles which make sport so unique, which makes sport so important in today's day and age, in today's society, in a world where we are seeing further growth of nationalism and egoism. I think sport is a great medium which can be used to unite people, to have solidarity amongst people, and these are elements which I think are very unique to sport. And I'd love to see sport used more as a catalyst, especially in our country, to our youth, to drive them. We are a very young country. Our demographic is so young, and we need to help these young minds build strong foundations, and sport can really do that well.
Right. I have two more questions, Ms. Bindra. One is that how do you envision the role of the foundation in shaping Indian sport going forward?
Well, of course, I listed out in detail on what programs we are working with. My real joy and my main priority area through the foundation is to work with grassroots level athletes, whether it is even with education, whether it is in all the other elements. It is about making an impact in the ecosystem which is existing in Indian sport. Even when, for example, when we're using all these high performance methods and bringing cutting edge methodologies into training, I'm so interested to bring it down to the grassroots level, because when young athletes get exposure to it, coaches as well, coaches too get exposure to it. They too understand what are the latest trends and what are global best practices. And that is where we can really then work to create an impact on the ecosystem and the environment which exists in Indian sport. So that is what the intention is. We, of course, these are the programs which we are currently doing. I'm sure that as time passes, they too will continue to evolve, and the change is the only constant in life. And what we're doing now is of significant relevance today, but it may not be of relevance a few years down the road. So we too, as a foundation, will have to keep evolving and see what areas can we work on and contribute towards, which will impact sport in a positive way in India, and we are cognizant of that fact. And we will keep working as the environment of sport keeps changing in India. Sport is a very dynamic sort of an activity and a dynamic sort of a field. And that environment in India is also continuously changing for the good. There's so much more happening. There's so much more support being given to athletes. There's also programs coming in for younger athletes. The government is doing a lot more through the Khelo India initiatives, etc., etc. So the environment is continuously changing, and I think I'm a great believer we have to work towards impacting and empowering our institutions and organizations, and that is what we will be focused on.
My final question is between talent and mindset. How does the two, in your view, are both important? Is mindset more important than talent? Is talent to be groomed without mindset? Final, how do we kind of bring them on board in a way that they kind of contribute effectively?
Yes, you mentioned talent and mindset. I will bring in a third element to it, which will bridge the two, perhaps, which is hard work. Without hard work, I think nobody can be successful. You can be as talented as anybody in the world, but if you do not put in the effort, if you do not continue to be the best that you can be and push yourself every single day, that talent will not bring you sustained success. Mindset is, you're never born with a winning mindset. It is also something that you have to continuously work on. Every human being, every athlete has his or her limitations, whether they could be physical limitations or or mental limitations, but you have to always push yourself out of your own comfort zone and grow as a human being and grow as an athlete. And you can only do that when we live with a philosophy that you have to push yourself every single day. The Olympics, yes, come once in 4 years, but for the athlete, the Olympics really should be every single day. You have to wake up with the same enthusiasm and the same amount of energy as if it were an Olympic Games happening, and go show up to training with that energy when nobody is watching you. Put in that hard work, put in that effort that is needed to build, to further your talent and to build your mindset, and that eventually, and hopefully, will bring you success.
Right. A little bit on the ABTP centers that you mentioned. So could you elaborate on this a little bit more?
Yes, so these Abhinav Bindra targeting performance centers have employed a global best practice in the areas of injury prevention, injury management, and of course, performance enhancement. These centers, of course, are open for athletes, but they're also open for elite athletes, but also open for recreational athletes and people who are also non-athletes, because even non-athletes face pain issues, they face orthopedic issues, and they face maybe neurological issues. So it is about bringing global best practice and helping society. You employ a lot of technology in it. It is a very scientific approach to the whole process. We always start with the starting point. Normally, when you go to, if you have a pain in the back or if you have a pain in your knee, you go to a clinic and then somebody assesses you and gives you a reading of his interpretation of what the problem may be. What we do is we go through a complete comprehensive assessment of the individual coming in. Everything is data driven, so all parameters of the body are assessed with data, and that becomes the starting point. And then when the individual, whether an athlete or the non-athlete, starts working and training in our centers, it is again data driven. It is again training with biofeedback. For example, if you are running on one of our treadmills, you are going to get real-time feedback on your gait, on the quality of your movement, on how you're running, so that you can make those interventions while you're actually doing that activity. And with the use of real-time biofeedback, the quality of training becomes much more superior, and the technology what we are using really empowers everybody. It of course empowers the therapist, or empowers the trainer who's helping the athlete or the individual, but it also empowers the person who's going through that process, because he or she can see real time on how he's doing, if he's doing something right or if he's doing something wrong, and then they can make those changes in a real-time scenario. The ABTP centers, of course, continue to evolve. Technology in sport and technology in medicine is also continuously evolving, and what we're trying to do is really stay connected to global best practice and bring those practices as and when they are employed in any other part of the world. So it's about bringing the best in class to the country, and helping, of course, the athletic population, but also the normal population to have a better quality of life.
Great, and thank you, Mr. Bindra, for taking out time and talking to us. It's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.